What habit will yield the highest return? Hey, y'all, this is Brent Perry with Business on Purpose. A question I came across as I was reading over the weekend asked just that. What habit in your life will yield the highest return? And then take that a step further. How can you make that habit part of your daily routine? So the book is called Win the Day by Mark Batterson. And after you define this habit, Batterson goes on to suggest in regards to making this habit a part of your day to day, he says the key, no matter what the habit is to identify the when and the where. So he in the chapter later describes a study that was done in the 1960s at Yale University involving graduating seniors. So these students were educated about the dangers of tetanus and given the opportunity to get free inoculation at the health center. Now, despite the fact that it was free and the majority of the students who were polled were convinced they needed to get the shot, only 3% followed through and got the vaccine. 3%. Now, there was another group of graduating seniors, the test group, that were given the same lecture with one caveat. They were actually given copies of the campus map with the location of the health center circled on the map. Then they were asked to pull out their calendars right there, look at their weekly schedules, and figure out a time when they could go and get the shot. And lo and behold, 9 times as many students in this group got inoculated because they had defined their when and their where. They knew when they were going to go. They knew where they were going to go. Batterson goes on in this chapter to finish it off with a quote that said, "Good intentions are good, but they aren't good enough." You got to define the habit, then define the when and the where, or there's a good chance this habit that can yield a very high return in your life or in your business will stay just a good intention. There will be no follow through. Now, at the beginning of the year, I was working with a client of mine and asked him a very similar question. He thought about it and he decided that the habit he saw that would yield an incredibly high return would be, drum roll, reading. I know, right? Sounds incredibly simple, but he admitted that he hadn't read a book in almost a year. He had intentions, even had books on his shelf and his nightstand that he had bought in the past year that were collecting dust because he just never got around to reading any of them. Some were books on business, some on marketing, some like mystery thrillers for his own enjoyment, some for books on his spirituality, just all kinds of different books that he knew would make him a better owner, a better boss, better husband, father, etc. He just never got around to reading them. So after our conversation, he had defined the habit, but it's also time to define the when and the where. And we got to talk a little bit more about it, and he decided, you know what, it's a pretty easy answer. Typically, he's the first person up in the house so he can get showered and shaved and dressed so he can kind of help get everyone else out the door as well when it's time for them to wake up. So he decided what he would do is he would wake up 30 minutes earlier each day, make himself a cup of coffee, sit in his favorite chair in the house, and open up a book. Now, at this point, he knew the habit, so he had just decided what his when and his where was going to be. His when, early in the morning, 30 minutes before I've normally set his alarm, is what he told me. His where, his favorite chair in the house with a cup of coffee, book opened up. You know, we've been talking last couple weeks since we had this conversation, and he has been crushing it. He's quick to admit that he hasn't been 100% since he started, but he's already finished 2 books in 2022, and we aren't even out of January yet. So what is your habit? What is the habit that you can identify in your life that can create a high return? And how do you make that daily? Well, what you got to do is define that when and that where it's going to be. So your homework assignment, which I know we all love homework, but ask yourself this question over the next week and see if there is a habit you need to take on that can incredibly that will yield an incredible high return this year for you. Thanks for listening, y'all. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. Our coaches are putting out world-class content every single week. Thanks for being a part.